So, fresh off our second annual award show, where we had Nick Andre as a guest, nicely from Ball Fake Podcast, and we tried to get the shine block from Piss and Power, but he was having technical difficulties. But we appreciate all of those guys for sparing their time with us and giving us their awards picks and just hanging out and just talking good basketball and whatnot. So we appreciate that. We appreciate everybody for watching that. And I'm John W.
Fresh X.
And this is the Hoopage Afternoon Session. You didn't have that. You wanted to ask that, did you?
No. Oh no, just appreciate it. It was a good show.
No,
shout out to Nick, shout out to Sean, shout out to Nice. It was dope talking to all those guys. Shout out to Sean. We'll get them on again.
No, for sure. But we're getting close to the end of the regular season as the days winding by. Joel Embiid just recently took the NBA lead for scoring average at 30.4 after when he had 45 last
night. Yeah, 45 last night.
And this is probably going to be a close race to come down to the end between Giannis and Embiid. And maybe LeBron, if LeBron decides to play, because I think he has to play at least two more games to qualify or to have enough games played divided by points.
It might be one game.
It might be one.
It's one or two games. So I think they only have about two left. So.
Right. But even with that being said, the Lakers were eliminated from playing and playoff contention last night.
Out of there.
Not to point fingers at anybody or to say it was this person's fault or it was this or that. At what point, did it look like the Lakers were going to have a rough season? Because I don't think, at the end of the day, no matter how you feel about LeBron or Anthony Davis or Westbrook or Pelinka or the Lakers in general.
Say Westbrook?
I said Westbrook. But no, seriously, at what point did the Lakers season just spin out of control? Honestly,
it honestly never got to start because
that's fair.
From the beginning of the year, they had injuries with Nine being out, and Ariza was supposed to start, and Ariza was out, and then LeBron was out first, I believe. And then when LeBron came back, AD went out. So they really had injuries going back and forth. And AD's last injury is what basically finished him off, because after that he missed 2 months, 3 months after that last injury, something like that. So his last one just really killed any momentum that they was gonna have. And then I'm, obviously looking at LeBron injury, he missed the game last night. His injury must be maybe worse than what we think it is, because I wouldn't believe that LeBron would think that they're playing for nothing, even to play in, get in the playoffs. So to not play that game and to know if you lose, you're probably out. His injury is probably way worse than what we think it is, honestly.
No, absolutely. And honestly, I don't have a problem with it. And I know a lot of people, basically say, why are you sitting out when your team needed these important? Now, these are important games, and I don't have if you feel like there's nothing to play for this year, play in, we get eliminated and play in. What's the point? We get out the first round. What's the point? And I know that's you still want to make it.
But I think he can go. I don't think LeBron is. What's the point?
No, I don't think he can go.
I think as long as I think LeBron kind of feels like, I don't know, obviously. But I would think he's more on the side like how KD was. It don't matter. It don't matter. Just want to play. Yeah. I think him and Anthony Davis both feel like if they were healthy and they got in the playoffs, they would have a chance. Because you gotta beat them folks 4 times. So they even did at the end of the day. They did have a lead on Phoenix before AD did go out last year, which was all last year. But so you're just gonna think that. But I just like for him not to play. I think it had to be. He probably couldn't go.
Yeah. Because
him saying we not playing for nothing.
Right. Because at the end of the day, not playing, he's might lose out on the scoring title, not making the playoffs. So
yeah, right.
He wouldn't want to sit out for any of those. I don't think he would want to sit out if just knowing those things.
Right. Those in particular, because if he doesn't finish the season, he doesn't get the scoring title. Right. So I think that would have been a big deal for him to give him his second one. Right. Going from having 1 to 2 does put you in another. that second one matters. That second one does matter. So I think it would have helped or whatever. But yeah, AD's last injury was it? Because he didn't play an All-Star game.
No, he didn't play an All-Star game.
But he probably wouldn't got voted in anyway this year since he missed so much time. But like the injury was like right before that, or a couple weeks before that. That one just killed it for them.
I figure. Just real quick, Kendrick Nunn also is expected to pick up his player option of $5.3 million to come back and be a Laker next year.
Sure and he is.
And even as a role player, like Kendrick Nunn being hurt, that took a guard out of the rotation.
Kendrick Nunn was playing a big role for them.
Yeah, so
he didn't play a game.
Like not one. So I know people are downplaying how important he probably was. They're gonna be the satirical jokes and everything, like, oh, they would have had Kendrick Nunn and whatnot. But not having Kendrick Nunn does change that lineup a lot, because now I don't think the plan was to depend on Kent Bazemore to start the season. I don't think he was honestly supposed to be in the rotation.
Yeah, but not having a cohesive team all year. I mean, even Malik Monk missed some time, Velo missed some time, everybody missed some time on this team. So I guess now that we're coming to the end, they're saying that they're gonna fire Frank Vogel. Yeah. I think Rob Pelinka should go, because honestly, he hasn't done anything since he's been there. I know people are gonna give him credit for the championship, but that was Magic Johnson trade. After Magic wanted to make the trade, Luke didn't want it. Luke was on Genie. Genie was on Luke's side. They didn't make it. Magic left. They brought back up Magic trade. They won a championship. He really hasn't done anything outside of that besides the trade last year. Brought in Westbrook and stuff like that. So I think Pelinka, if Vogel's gone, Pelinka should go too. Honestly. But now you got to look into next year. Think about next season. I'm sure LeBron's already thinking about next season for sure. Like this is probably one of those years where he takes he's gonna be healthy. But right as he's healthy to go, I'm sure he's going to be in the gym or whatever. But Westbrook says that the plan right now is for them to run it back. So what do the Lakers do to make it work? I mean, honestly, Westbrook, they only played 23 games together. Right. That's an important number. It's 82 games in a year. They played 22.
I think it was 23. Maybe Melo's probably not coming back. I can see Trevor Reeves probably won't come back. Kent Bazemore probably not coming back. I feel like they find some signing trades of players like Kendrick Nunn for other players who they want on the roster that can bring in shooting and defense and whatnot. Dwight Howard probably is gone again.
On this team, only people I would bring back Malik Monk. Yeah. I would bring back Austin Reeves. Yeah. Shout out to him for taking advantage of his opportunity. Because he showed to be a valuable player. I think he's a solid player. And I probably would bring back Melo. Melo played good for them this year, so he's probably going to get on the vet minimum. So and his catch and shoot was good this year. But outside of that, everybody else, I would be trying to fill with some shooters. You got to just fill in with shooters, even if I'm getting a bid. Got to shoot.
All right, that's enough about the Lakers.
Yeah, I mean we had to start with them to get them up out of here and look at what
get up out of here.
Look what they're gonna do for next year, because even though they should be most teams that miss the playoffs are gonna be thinking next year how we make this playoffs, but as soon as the season is over, the Lakers are starting to build a championship team for next year. They're thinking championship. Absolutely. But get them up out of here. I was a Spurs fan. Now that's over with since the Lakers is officially done. So hopefully the Spurs get eliminated quickly, because I do not want to see them in the playoffs. But shout out to the Spurs for making the play-in.
No, for sure. Over to the Brooklyn Nets, who had a rocky basic second half for the season. They're still in playing. They're still in playing range. They're still going to be right there. They're probably going to get the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round.
Yes,
in the play-in, excuse me. KD is already on course. Everybody's in the corner at this point, saying, just put him out there against anybody. It doesn't matter. Do you think the Brooklyn Nets can build enough team chemistry towards the end of the season to make a playoff run? Because Ben Simmons is out until at least the first round of the playoffs. He's not going to play in the play. He's not going to play in the end of the season. Seth Curry is hurt right now. LaMarcus Aldridge is in and out of the lineups most nights.
I don't know what last one.
But you got a healthy KD for the most part right now. You got Kyrie Irving as a full-time player again. Steve Kerr has enough of his rotational pieces where he can
Nash.
My bad. Yeah. Steve Nash, has enough of his rotational pieces where he can, run some of his basketball philosophies offensively and defensively. But do you think all that would be enough to build some chemistry for this team to actually make some kind of noise in the playoffs, even if it's just like maybe they get to the second round this year?
Yeah, I don't think chemistry is the problem. I think they can win a first round matchup without Ben Simmons. I don't think they go to the finals without Ben.
That's right.
But they definitely could make a run if KD's on the court, if Seth Curry's on the court, which is really important because Seth has missed some time.
I know Steve Nash was thinking about. He said Steve Nash thinking about sitting him for the rest of the season.
Yeah, they even like for the play-in game. So, he probably won't play no more the regular season, and then they probably make the decision going to the play-in or whatever. But it's always a lot of ifs with Brooklyn. Outside of having KD, I'm giving them a chance because KD's going to be on the court, and now especially having Kyrie too. But when you got those guys, as long as those guys are on the court, it's good to have Nick Claxton out there. Him and KD has a good relationship, and you see him and Kyrie kind of building something. They have enough to get it done. I would expect them to beat Cleveland, and that would put them in the matchup with Boston right now. Boston at the 2. Boston has been, they're kind of like Atlanta last year, really the best record in the league since January, first in offense and defense. Mm-hmm. Boston is some people's trendy pick to go to the finals now, especially Jason Tatum with a strong end to the year. He's going to get some MVP votes. But outside of Milwaukee early on, I don't really fear any team to beat Brooklyn if they have the basics of their team. But to beat the Bucks, I think Ben Simmons will help. But a healthy Steph Curry, KD, Drummond, Kyrie will beat Boston. They'll beat Miami. They could beat Philly. Who else? Toronto. They can beat all the teams. The East is pretty wide open. And Brooklyn season, KD spoke to the other day. I mean, it's just the fact that the season got derailed based off of his knee injury. I feel like that just gets lost in the narrative when people talk about how bad they've been, and we hate it. We saw a good sample size with KD. It was 27-15 in first place when he got hurt. He misses the next 2 months. James Harden quit on the team. Kyrie was still part-time at that time. So, I mean, what does that team look like? They look like they look 5-17. What they lost? 11 straight at one point, 13 straight at one point. So this team is really weird because even though they've had their ups and downs with injuries still, they're not a true play-in team at the end of the day. I mean, even if you just look at the record since KD has been back, they went on a good little streak. The last 10, they're like 5-5, some drop some here and there. So they're not a perfect team, obviously, but they're not the normal play-in team. And so, I think they can win any matchup in the first round. It's just the Bucks because the Bucks have enough personnel to match up with everything. Of course, Giannis can match up with KD. Then you got Middleton out there. You got Drew Holidays out there. Brook, it seems like he's getting back in the rhythm. He dropped 26 yesterday. Mm-hmm. So, and then just having that championship swag is a factor for me always. So the Bucks are the only team that's like, all right, you gotta need everybody out there to beat them. And at the end of the day, I just think they need a healthy team. I honestly don't really think they need Ben Simmons to beat them. They just need those main guys healthy. But it would be nice to have them.
Yeah, just because he had another dynamic. I see somebody say, Ben Simmons don't want to come back because he don't want to play forward for Brooklyn. He only want to play point guard.
But honestly, I think he still would play point guard. I think he would still handle the ball because Kyrie still can't play off the ball, and they play such a flow. And
I think with how Steve Nash play offense, not saying it wouldn't matter who's at the point guard, but he wouldn't. I don't think Ben Simmons would be stronghold to being in a one spot and not ever handle the ball and make plays though. Even in
I think Ben Simmons is playing point guard. It would be interesting to see where he's going to be used, but I think he's going to play point guard. I think he's going to be Ben is a point guard. He's not a power forward. He was a power forward. He was drafted as a power forward, but he's a point guard.
I can respect that.
And I'm I be hard on the players when they be trying to call point guard. Ben has played point guard as far as setting the team up, running the offense, high assist numbers, guarding point guards. He plays point guard.
That's fair. So the NBA MVP race is going to probably be pretty close down to end, no matter how anybody feels about it. And I don't think there's one set argument for any player. Like not for Jokic, not for Embiid, not for Giannis. I feel like they're all doing things that warrant an MVP conversation or even win the MVP award. I know everybody's going to give it to Jokic because he clears in all the analytical stats and most stats in general. Giannis is how
he got a little good narrative too since Porter is out. I don't care about Jamal Murray because we knew that coming into the year, but missing Michael Porter also.
I agree. Giannis coming off a championship, playing at a high elite level all year. And to end the year, he's playing at an even higher level. Hit the game time shot against Brooklyn the other night. The game winning block the night before that against Philadelphia. Embiid, who's just been dominant all year in general, offensively and defensively. And when it comes to MVP, well, everybody's criteria is different. How you feel about each player is going to be different. But when you're looking at this player is the MVP, or this player should be MVP,
right?
What are some of the things you truly consider, like, what separates the players, in your opinion?
Man, it's really like everything that you could think of matters. Everything goes in the criteria for me. Because obviously, to just start the easy one, the team success matters. We're not going to give the MVP to a player that's in 10th place. 14th place or 10th place. That's why Trae Young is in the conversation. So winning, the team success, the numbers matter too, because obviously you're going to look at the stats, and he's leading in scoring right now. He's been at the top of scoring most of the year, honestly. It's been back and forth. Like KD had it earlier in the year, then Embiid had it for a while, then LeBron had it. Now Embiid has it back. So Jokic is averaging 27, 14, and 8. So, the numbers is there. Giannis averaging 30. So
no slouches.
Yeah. No so the numbers are going to matter. And then overall, you're just going to watch the dominance, the eye test. You just watch this. I've watched stretch of games this year with Embiid every night. So, he was getting 35 to 40. Then you watch stretch of games where it seemed like Jokic every night was getting 35, 10, and 8. Not even a triple-double, but 35, 14 rebounds, 8 assists, stuff like that. So I think that all plays into it. I don't play the game of you take this player off this team and put him on that team, because that's not realistic. I just don't even choose not to play that game. But I do look at the adversity of the team and how you still prevail through that. Like I said, I don't personally care about the Jamal Murray case, because we came into the year not knowing if he was going to play. Right. So in training camp, they was already running stuff without Jamal Murray.
Right.
But missing Michael Porter in the middle of the season, he was already struggling anyway before he went out. But, losing Michael Porter, Aaron Gordon hadn't quite had the season that they probably thought. He's up and down. Sometimes I watch Aaron Gordon, I'm like, dang, why this man ain't an all-star yet? And I watch the other games, I'm like, that's why. Not an all-star yet. But, you know what I mean? A lackluster supporting cast, because I will still say his supporting cast is lackluster. But still being able to compete to be in the top 4 in the West. I think they're 5th right now. They're 5th right now, but that will put them in play with being in the East, being in the top 3 or 4 in the East or whatever. Talking about the Nuggets, that is. But then looking at Embiid's situation and having the cloud over the team of Ben Simmons all year and really missing a big piece of your team into February, that was a bigger story to me than Jamal Murray did. Because we knew Jamal wasn't going to be there, but you didn't really know how the Ben Simmons thing was going to play. So people weren't really in their roles until February. I think we more than halfway through the season, and now everybody knows that Tyrese Maxey played point guard all year. Now it's I'm not the point guard anymore, so this is my role. That's even why you saw Tobias struggle a little bit at the beginning. He's playing a little bit better now, I would say. But in the beginning, when they first got James, it's like, I've been doing this all year now. You got him out here. So that kind of really, the Tyrese Maxey switch kind of just threw everything off a little bit or whatever. So I think all that plays a little role into it. So, the answer, which probably isn't a good answer, is just there's no perfect answer. You just got to, different things are going to move different people. Some people are going to be real high on the analytics, on the advanced stats side. I don't really love the advanced stats, and some of them I appreciate. Some of them I just really don't care about. I don't apologize for that. Some people are going to be high on this team is terrible. If you take them off this team, they'd be a lottery team and stuff like that. Some people are going to be on there. They beating everybody and stuff like that. So I just personally look at a little bit of all of it, and then I just blindly choose somebody.
No, I feel you. I can respect that, because I feel like that's all of those ingredients do go into how you pick your MVP and who should be the MVP. And another thing that I've seen to notice that I don't really care for when it comes to MVP talk is I don't like the phrase voter fatigue because I feel like you're coming into a season saying he's supposed to be the MVP.
And not to cut you off on that real quick, but voter fatigue was for LeBron and Jordan, dudes that literally, it's like we're literally tired of voting for you. Like winning once, even twice. That's not. Jordan won 5 MVPs. LeBron got 4 of them. He was winning back to back. So it's we're not talking voter fatigue this year.
No, and like I feel like once you say that, you already have your mind set up on who should be the MVP and who is the MVP. So now you don't want to hear a discussion of why this player should be the MVP. And I think once you get to that, that's a built-in bias and narrative that you don't necessarily want to address because at the end of the day, I just go back. Last 2 MVPs, Giannis won 2, Jokic won 1. Mm-hmm. And you're coming and telling me that no matter how great Giannis played, no matter how great Jokic played last year, Giannis was supposed to win it from day one. Right. And Jokic only wins because of voter fatigue. Now you're taking away from a player who had an MVP season.
Exactly.
In my opinion.
No, you're 100% right. And I feel like we're kind of playing that too is the whole argument of should the best player in the league win the MVP.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like the best player in the league stays the same. The MVP can change every year. That's why I hate when people disrespect people MVPs like they do Derrick Rose and
first Steph Curry.
Yeah, the first Steph Curry. Like anybody can be the MVP. Anybody can have an MVP season. I think this year is probably one of the years where it could be multiple people. Maybe you might get 1 or 2 people. Like last year was Embiid and Jokic down to the end. I thought Embiid could have won, but then he got hurt. But this year, you could legit see 3 people have a good argument, and even legit. Like I'm not mad at people that think Jason Tatum is the MVP.
I'm mad at people that got Luka right there.
Yeah, like especially when you look at the season they have. I just feel like we're in such an era, especially right. I mean, because they maintained it. I can see why DeMar had dropped, but I get why DeMar was in the conversation and he earned his right to be in there. Right. He just doesn't win it, and that's okay. But just falling out is like, oh, see, y'all chose DeMar and you were wrong. Like, no, they're struggling recently. I mean, Levine is hurt. Like, stuff happens. Well, this is a long season. I feel like people decide way too early for MVP. Like, I'm well known. Right. I won't even talk to you about MVP really before February, but really, really, really before January. Some people already have their top 5 in January. And if you had your top 5 in January, that list was KD and Steph, 2 players that going to finish 6, 7, 8.
Right, not even.
Like, are they going to get votes this year? They're probably not going to get votes. So you just got to remember it's a long season, 82 games. Just because you have to count. I asked you this question too because I've been wondering this, and we can go to something else after this. But does playing earlier in the year matter more than playing later in the year? Like, does it take, or because it's going to be what you saw last? But if we both play 70 games, let's say we both play 70, 75 games, and you miss a month in December, but I missed a month in February, January, does it matter at what time you miss it? Because I see a lot of people get played out of certain conversations, or some people get.
That's the Luka.
That's the Luka conversation. I also said that because certain people say that now they have Cade as Rookie of the Year. I know this is not MVP, but some people say they had Cade as Rookie of the Year now because Evan Mobley has missed the last month or so. But Cade missed a month to start, almost a month and a half to start the season. So does when you miss the time, does that count into how you look at those?
To me personally, no. They both play 70 games. They play 70 games. Like that's a reasonable. Yeah. That's a reasonable resume of the season where you could like, all right, now we can compare. But I feel like that's Luka's thing every year. Not because he necessarily misses games early in the year, but he doesn't. Instead of like he started off this year averaging 24. I think what he's at 28 now, 29. Yeah. So Luka starts off the season kind of slower. Yeah. So that's also the other argument.
And
do you value early season performance over later season performance where we'll see a player get hot for the last month of the season and maybe his team does decently now? It's like, oh, should he be the MVP?
And to end, the only time I look at it like that is if it's like a drastic change.
Yeah.
It has so like super drastic. Dallas were in like 8th, but now you're in like 3rd, or the Boston. They started off slow, but January 1st hit and they're first place since then. Jason Tatum averaging 27 a game. So I just wonder, does time matter because of what you're seeing?
And I always go back. like we can go back to Monica McNutt, quote Stephen A. Smith. It's a fluid discussion. It's not a straight line. It can't be. Otherwise, you're gonna pick your MVP winner opening night. And that's more than anything worse.
Because people literally have MVP lists in December.
Like,
it would have been Steph.
It would have been Steph. And that's honestly worse than saying that there's voter bias, because you just want this person to be the MVP.
Right.
And like I said, you don't have to be the best player. You don't have to have this. I don't even think you have to have an out-of-worldly amazing season.
I do if you're a lower seed.
If you're a lower seed,
like a 5 or 6, you gotta average a triple-double for the MVP. For the first time in 40 years.
That's fair. But I don't think you have to. There has to be some season where you're like 30 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, a steal and a half a block, 50, 40, 90. Like, who does that?
It don't. Nobody it doesn't have to be.
Nobody does that.
Historic.
Larry Bird didn't even do that.
Larry Bird
Wait, never mind. I'm pretty sure he did do that one. It's my bad.
Yeah, but I feel like. I mean, that obviously would separate you.
That would absolutely.
But when everybody's having a solid season, I think that's what people trying to inject the advanced stats to make us want to vote for Jokic, which he has a fluid conversation. But it's like he's having a great season, a historic season, but he's not just killing some advanced stats. The history just not the same. For me.
I want to get to the comments. We got praise in the comments. I want to say this real quick. Why can't you just be a dominant player without having the best numbers, which I think is Embiid's biggest case. He's just a dominant player.
Wait,
I said, why he just can't be a dominant player? Like, I feel like Embiid's whole case is he just dominates every night. Why can't you just be the MVP based off of that?
Yeah,
honestly, that's an honest question.
And that leads to the numbers, and the team is winning.
Right? Because
he's in third right now.
They're fourth right now.
Yeah,
but it's that for everybody's 48, 49, 50.
Philly's really been at the top of the East all year. We gonna be funky about it. Like, I get it, the standards been changing here and there, but Philly was at first until Joel caught COVID. Once and then once he came back and got back in rhythm, they've been in that area all year. So I'm not gonna act like they can just lose something like that. But yeah, that's part of when. That's why Shaq won his first MVP. He just dominated.
Nobody talking about Shaq's numbers that year, but he did lead the league in scoring.
Yeah, that was his first scoring title. But it's not.
Did he lead league rebounding that year?
Possibly.
Did he make all defense that year? Like, when people talking about Shaq as a defensive force, he was just dominant.
He just dominated. And he was leading the league, and he did like history type things. But because he's the last big man in the league in scoring. Win MVP. I think he's the last big man in the league in scoring period. Joel do it this year. Yeah, but it's not like he had the highest scoring average in NBA history that year, or the highest rebounding average in NBA history. He averaged 30, maybe like 13. The Lakers didn't break the regular season wins record, and they were good. They were dominant. That's it. And that's good enough. So that's why I said Joel Embiid is my MVP. That's my official pick. Joel Embiid is my MVP this year.
I can respect that.
And shout out to Chris O'Brien. He said that he thanked the Grizzlies for that. I think that does affect because at the end of the day, people are going to go. That's going to affect the voters. It's going to go with the voters. It's going to go with the narrative. They're going to see them winning. They're going to say, he's not necessarily the MVP. But the difference that he puts to that team, I guess, will be more so seen in the playoffs. Because they're going to advance past the first round without Ja. I say that to. I hope there's some Memphis Grizzlies fans watching. Everybody think this team is they are really good. They're a really solid team. They lose 4-1 if Ja don't play in the first round. And 1 is generous.
No, because at the end of the day, like you say, Ja's was separate. I feel like while they're a good team, even without Ja, I feel like they're not a second place team without Ja. But they 55 wins without Ja.
Man,
like that's another
is generous. If they play the Clippers in the first round and Ja Morant is not out there, Paul George is getting the Grizzlies out of there. And let's just watch it. Right. No, I want Ja to play, so I don't want to see it.
No, but seriously, I do want to get to the Clippers next because Kawhi is shooting around before practice, like even before games. Him and Paul George have been working out for about a month though before game. Yeah. You don't even have to go into a lot of detail about this, but I feel like this is a question that needs to be asked because people don't start asking, so we might as well ask it first like we always do. But if Kawhi can come back at any capability, we see Paul George is back in rhythm. Do the Clippers have a chance to make a playoff run?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, yeah, that's it. No,
Paul George was having an MVP season before he got hurt. Like he was on his way to being All NBA first team.
Absolutely.
And if you look at that point when he got hurt, All NBA first team was like Steph, DeRozan, KD, Paul George, Embiid, or Jokic, depending on who you went with at that time. Paul George was having a really, really great year. He came right back out on fire. So I think that makes it a little bit easier for Kawhi too. So as he works back in, he can kind of just do what he, just play in the mid range, do what he does. Don't have to kind of over exert too much energy, even defensively, because Paul George is quite a better defender. But if anybody's on par, Paul George would be right there too. Right. So the Clippers would be dangerous in the playoffs, and I would take them to beat. They could beat a few teams. The first round matchup, if they win the play-in, that would be them looking at Memphis. So then once you get into the second round, more likely you get Golden State, because Golden State is the 3 right now. Dallas has a chance to get the 3, I think. I don't think Golden State solidified as a 3. I'll pull it up real quick. But I don't think they will beat the Warriors, but I wouldn't be surprised if they beat the Warriors, the Clippers, that is. Second round, Kawhi, probably more rhythm. And even though I'm a huge Steph fan, I'm not a fan of Draymond Green, so I would have any opportunity for him to get a little. Yeah, I'm not a fan of him. I think he's overrated.
But before we get out of here, of course, I feel like the thing for almost 3/3 of the season now, the Utah Jazz, who, although they've been a really good team.
Hold on, real quick. I find it funny that we was on here talking about Utah, and I said that their offense lacked creativity and innovation, and that they could do more with Rudy Gobert, and all this stuff started coming out talking about how they're going to pass him the ball.
But anyway,
when we're right, we're right.
When we're wrong, we're right. Exactly. So we're right regardless. But now, seriously, the Utah Jazz do have serious problems. Serious defensively and offensively, and not even for a whole game. They will literally. I think they've lost. I say some, and they have after 3 quarters, they have the best record at like 55-27. If the game stopped at 3 quarters, which it doesn't. I'm not gonna say there's a rift between Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell because I don't know them. I'm not in their locker room. I don't know how they actually feel about each other. But there's a problem with that offense where Quinn Snyder, Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, and Rudy Gobert have not gotten on the same page to figure it out on a more creative pattern. And I will say this on both sides because we gotta get out. We gotta get out here. I will say this on both sides. Yes, they should absolutely involve Rudy Gobert more in the offense. Duck downs, get him some mismatches where he got smaller guards on him, something. I don't know.
Man, it's 2022, man. Everybody running screen and roll and literally just throw the ball at the rim. He's literally taller than almost everyone on the court.
However, Rudy Gobert, it's not that he isn't offensively gifted or offensively capable.
Rudy Gobert locked in on his few moves that he got.
That, and I don't think Rudy Gobert is offensively as aware as he needs to be for this team to succeed. I've seen times where he's had mismatches. They throw him the ball, and he doesn't do anything with it. Not necessarily, he's not even like, I'm kicking back out, where he just can't do anything with the ball because he can't move a small defender. Rudy Gobert does get pushed off his spot a lot offensively, even by smaller guards and smaller big men. Utah's just a weird team, and I don't think there should be a team in Utah to get one. I'm just going to end it right there. Let's get the Jazz out of Utah. Get the Jazz out of Utah, and that solves everything.
Get rid of their history. John Stockton could go. Karl Malone could go.
Keep Jerry Sloan history somehow. I don't know. Jerry Sloan knew this stuff, and he was condoning it. Get him out of there.
Get rid of Utah.
Get rid of the Utah Jazz, and I think that helps that whole team. I don't know how successful they were in New Orleans, but get them out of Utah because nothing good is coming out of Utah. Nothing at all. Nothing. But other than that, I think we can end the show right there. Yeah. You know, anything else?
No, just as always, appreciate the viewers. Appreciate everyone that checked out the Hoopers Awards. You can watch that back on our YouTube. Just go to YouTube, search on the Hoopers Pod, subscribe, like, comment, all that cool stuff. Anywhere you get your podcast, search the Hoopers Pod, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all that cool stuff. Every Monday, Catch us on the Nothing But Net channel to the Dash Radio app every Monday, 3 o'clock for the Hoopers Hour. And every Wednesday, 12 o'clock for the Hoopers Afternoon Session. Here on Off the Ball Network's Facebook page, the Hoopers YouTube page, and the Hoopers Twitter page. And as always, shout out to the Off the Ball Network. That's all I got.
All right, I'm glad to love you.
Fresh X.
And Hoopers Afternoon Session.